Well, good morning, everybody. Welcome to See More People number 3. Today we've got a treat. We've got some fantastic people coming on board to help us with our lead generation and marketing. And you're going to find out with the gentleman I'm going to speak to now, Mr. Jamie Hayes. It's not always about leads. When we actually were talking about that just yesterday, we're talking about, we're going to be helping with lead generation and all those sorts of things. But when it comes down to leads, we can have a stack of leads, can't you? But if you're not actually having conversations with qualified leads, what tends to happen is we just get a whole lot of names that we do nothing with. Now, Jamie has been helping us with nutrition tips. Now, Jamie has been in business for 3+ decades. He now is the CEO and owner of 3 companies. He helps people all around the world. And one of the things that I learned many, many years ago, because I had the delight of working with Jamie on one of his very exciting, groundbreaking projects many years ago called Body Express. One of the things Jamie does, he is a continual student. He's always going in and learning new stuff. And, I'll tell you up front, and Jamie won't say this, but he's always been ahead of his time. He's always comes up, he picks trends, and he's always been incredibly clever at actually putting things together that work. Now, I remember, just before I get the great man on, I remember one day I was sitting at his Miranda Club. He came up with this weight loss idea with this text with these little dots all the way around it. And I read this thing and I said, I rang him up because I was driving the sales in that company. And I said, Jamie, there's just too much text here. He said, look, I read the copy, Steve, but if people get down to the second paragraph, we know they're qualified. I said, oh, mate, I don't know about that. But guess what? That week, we were inundated with the number of prospects calling the business. And we had a record number of leads and inquiries. So again, I'm from a sales background. Jamie's from a marketing and running business background. So welcome, Jamie. Thanks so much for joining us.
Hello, Steve. That was all too kind. I must say, you read it just the way I wrote it. No, I didn't write it. But you're too kind.
So thanks, mate. I'm really excited about what we're going to be talking about and your area of expertise and what you've been driving a whole lot of other businesses outside that you've been helping. I think will help everyone today tremendously.
Oh, well, it's a pleasure to be here, and congrats on the initiative of doing a special series on marketing and lead generation, or conversation generation, as you correctly put it. But before I start, I just want to acknowledge the fantastic sessions by Richard and Michael. And if anybody's watching this session, if they haven't seen Richard's session, and I have implemented stuff straight away from both those sessions, they are just pure gold. So fantastic. And what I'm going to be sharing is somewhat fitness industry centric, but people in other industries, health industries or whatever like that are selling their services or goods or whatever like that, hopefully there'll be some tips that they can pick up. And I'm going to be getting into a little bit of a detail, and there's just so much to learn in this area. So that's just a bit of an overview.
Terrific. Well, we were talking about creating traffic. Mm-hmm. The big word at the moment, isn't it? Traffic. Let's get more traffic to our website, to our landing page. It's driving that traffic. But as we were chatting just yesterday, you were saying that one of the most important things about traffic is getting a qualified lead that wants to talk to you so you have a conversation. So let's get the guys a little bit of a background on what that means and how they can actually start putting some ABCs into place.
Well, a few years ago, I don't know, was it 2 or 3 years ago, the leading social network, which is Facebook, suddenly decided, businesses will have to pay to play. So a fitness club that relies on organic traffic, it's the equivalent of printing out flyers, going out to your members' car park and putting them under the windscreens, on the windscreens of a few of your members' cars. It is so impotent, and you just cannot rely on to hit your sales goals. And so, Facebook have said, and Facebook own Instagram and Messenger, of course, you got to pay to play. And so that's the concept of paid traffic and how to make paid traffic work. It is a new skill set. And so, Steve, I I've got a bunch of slides and some content to share with people, and I don't want to overwhelm them with detail. And it's going to start with some big picture business and management strategy, and then get into the nitty gritty of paid traffic. Can I go and share?
Yeah, absolutely. Look, we've got a number of sessions to go through with you, so we can cherry pick the bits along the way. So people,
Sure.
that'd be terrific.
Yeah, and people interrupt, as we go. So let's go to my trusty PowerPoint. No, that's not it. It's this one. Cool. No, close. Let me try that again. This one. Great. Can you see the picture of me?
You sure can.
Great. Well, let's get rid of me. Quickly, I just want to review what I regard as the 4 management responsibilities: to attract, which is lead generation and marketing; to convert, which is the lead conversion and sales. And often these two are conflated. Then it's to delight, or you could call wow, delivering the customer service, and then collect, which is your accounts payable and direct debit and things like that. I find managers and owners tend to concentrate on where their basic skill set is, and typically, like in the fitness industry, they concentrate on delight, but they really suffer, or their businesses suffer, because they're not doing the other things. And what I've drawn here is the 4 walls of, let's say, a fitness center, which is people inquire, they walk in the door, and we hopefully sell them, and then we look after their services. But the collection of money is super important, and getting more and more people, attracting more and more leads, and because the key outcome that we want is business cash flow or profit. So, but growing your direct debit, which is under strain, particularly with COVID, with a lot of businesses, and your actual profit, what is left at the end of the day, and you do not want to work for a loss-making business, I can assure you, but they're lag indicators. But the lead indicators is how effective we are in marketing, and particularly this word appointments. And if there is just, Steve, if there is just one metric I think all club managers should have with all their team, is how many appointments do we have in the diary today?
I think that goes down to nearly, well, at every business, it's the number of appointments. You can actually do all the busy work, and we can say, oh, we're doing our Facebook post, or we're putting out a tile, or we're going to a network event. I'm going to a convention. I'm going to meet lots of people. But at the end of the day, it's how many people you've booked that want to talk to you, whether it's belly to belly on Zoom, that are qualified, that you can help. Now, I heard an interesting statement, because it dovetails with what we say. Find people pay to have their problem solved. And I think that's a thing that we need to make sure that with our marketing, we're going to drive that traffic, see more people, make more sales. But if you don't have appointments, you've got nothing. So a lot of people do this busy work. I've got people that I know are spending all day, every day, doing busy work, but have no appointments. And what happens here is that they get frustrated because they want to succeed. So what's some of the how can we get more qualified leads into that bucket? Because I know every single person that's working hard wants to have more of those appointments.
Well, it has to be the focus of the business and focus of the team. So I say to any business manager, if you're at home right now, pick up the phone, call your club, and whoever answers the phone, whoever, and whatever their role is, ask them, how's things going? They'll typically say, it's going great. And then say, how many appointments do we have booked for today? They'll typically say, I don't know. And then the owner says, would you mind checking the diary to let us know how many appointments got booked for the day? Oh, let me find it. And then they'll say, I can't see any appointments booked for the day. So things aren't going great. There's no way they're going to hit their sales target if they don't have any appointments.
Now, what you'd speak about most becomes important. So that should be a war cry of every day. How many appointments do we have booked? And, back in the olden days, it's one of the, when we were the Blue Smurfs, Jamie, say, g'day. How you going, guys? How many appointments do we have booked? And
right.
It's usually a phone call at the end of the evening. Absolutely right.
Absolutely. Anyway, let me get back. I've got a lot of stuff to share. I want to get through it for you, for everybody. So we're distinguishing between the lag indicators, the stuff that keeps business owners awake at night. But what's going to drive it are the lead indicators, which is the lead generation and your appointments. So, but the key result is cash flow, and a lot of businesses are under strain. And I believe that there are so many businesses and professionals out there who are leaving too much money on the table. So Steve, I'm a numbers guy, and this is pretty rough. But let's just go through a club who has, let's say, a direct debit revenue of $4,000 per week, and their goal in 6 months is $7,000 per week. So they want to grow. So I'm going to go through this pretty quickly. So let's say their membership rate's $30 a week. So they want to grow from 133 to 233 members. That's an increase of 100 members. They've given themselves 6 months to achieve it. So that's a net monthly growth of 17, but they typically lose about 4 per month, attrition. So their sales target's 21. Now, I'm going to distinguish between in-center sales and Zoom sales that we'll talk about later. But let's say the average sales conversion face-to-face is 70%, but it's a bit lower on Zoom. It doesn't need to be, but let's assume that. So the actual initial conversations required is 30 to 41, depending upon where their focus is. And the show rate is 80%. So the number of appointments required, this per month, is somewhere between 37 to 52. And let's say their booking ratio, once they've made initial contact, is 80% or even 60% on the low side, which means the number of conversations with new leads that they have to be speaking to each month is somewhere between 46 to 86. That's a lot. But if you boil it down on a weekly basis, it's only between 11 and 20. So what we've done is taken the business growth goal of increasing the direct debit right down to how many people, new people, qualified prospects, they need to speak to each week. So it's just important, however you do your numbers, to get them figured out what you need to achieve, what the team need to achieve its business goals.
And we're based on the skill sets of when that lead to contact percentage, that contact and so forth. Those are skill sets which are, we call them a what's next mentality. So it's the number of leads is one thing, but it's having the conversations. I mean, how many times do we get lots of leads and we can't have a chat with them, and then they just go into a lost leaders? So it becomes down to, well, what did we do to get that lead? Was it a qualified lead? Was it something that engaged them with the copy that they put on Facebook or on their social media or their email? So it's about attracting the right type of person.
Aha. You're a mind reader. I failed mind reading and you're a mind reader. Let's get back to it. Okay. So you are a genius, I tell you. So to hit them, sorry, excuse me. I'm so pathetic at this stuff. So the summary is, to hit their membership growth target, the business manager will need to ensure there's a flow of qualified leads that can be contacted so the sales team can achieve between 11 and 20 initial conversations with a new prospect each week. So from a cash flow point of view, and I'm just going to go quickly on this because I like looking at profit and loss statements. All businesses have fixed expenses, say rent, finance, full-time wages. Then they've got variable expenses like marketing, casual wages and things like that. That's their break-even line. And let's say some clubs, like in Melbourne, might have gone back to a direct debit of 0, and they've had to regrow. So, and they're going to have negative cash flow, which is bleeding money, which is working capital, until they get to their break-even number there. So the trick is what we want to do, that's slow growth. What we want to do is minimize the amount of cash needed to change that blue line to a faster growth, something like this. So where revenue is growing, sales are growing faster, revenue is growing faster, because the difference between the one on the left and one on the right might be $50,000 or $100,000 in negative cash flow. So the trick is, how can we achieve what's on the right and to get number of break-in? And the only difference is the number of new sales conversations they have each week. So my question to everybody is, what if there was a way to accelerate leads, conversations and sales to reduce working capital and boost profits sooner? That was self-funding. Now see, when I say self-funding, which means the prospects pay for your ad costs.
I think everyone would like to know how to do that, because from in the olden days, from what I know, and I'm not a marketing guru, it was they called it a tripwire, which actually they actually pay a little bit, but it paid for the ad, so we got the opportunity to upsell them.
That's right. So if your ad costs are being paid for, you've got no reason not to pay for ads.
Absolutely right.
So let's show you how to do that. Let's go. Hopefully this will be of some benefit to some people. So, but first I say, what's your plan, if you're watching this, to ensure that you and your salespeople have contact with enough new qualified prospects each week to ensure that your business hits the sales target? You've got to have a plan. So there are 4 lead gen strategies that I see out there in the market. The first one is hope that you get enough walk-ins and enough info calls. The second one is hope that your salespeople can generate enough new qualified leads or re-engage enough ex-members. Again, it's hope. The third is the hope that your members see your organic social media posts and share them with enough friends, and that those friends reach out and contact you. So my big statement here is hope is not a strategy. So what we're going to be talking about is running paid traffic campaigns to generate new qualified leads every week on top of the hope strategy. Still do 1, 2, and 3, sure, but don't rely on it. So here's some basic maths, and of course people can freeze the video if they're playing back. What's the minimum expected gross value of a new membership? Now, of course, if you've got a no contract membership, some people might stay a few months, and then you've got some people that stayed 5 years. But if you've got a minimum term membership, let's say 12 months, you know what the minimum gross value is, which is the weekly direct debit. Well, actually, here, let's look at an example. So let's say we've got a weekly direct debit of $30, minimum term $52, and the ability to sell a minimum term agreement is very much dependent upon your sales skills, and your sales strategies. So the minimum gross direct debit is $15.60, let's say, plus an enrollment fee of $9.99, which is a minimum gross of $16.59. That person may stay 2 or 3 years, so it'd be much higher than that. They might refer a whole lot of people. They might have a secondary spend in personal training and products, so it might be a lot more than that, but this is the minimum gross value. Now step 2, and this is the big question. What is the maximum the business could justify investing to acquire each new member that's worth $1,659? Would they be willing to pay $10? Would they be willing to pay $50? Would they be willing to pay $99? Because if you think about it, if you're getting $99 up front and your ad costs were $99 per member, even at $99, which is pretty high costs, each membership is paying for itself. So from a cash flow point of view, it's neutral.
Absolutely. And some people would just say, well, oh, gee whiz, Jamie, I don't pay $99 for my ad. But if they're talking to the right people and they have a strong conversion process, why we say conversion is the key, because we've got to get that conversion right before we start marketing. So we get a high conversion, so that $99 might be just $59.
Well, well, I know, but let's say, actually, sorry, you're quite right. The better you are at the soft skills, the contact, the conversion, things like that, your ad cost per new member goes down. So Point noted. But let's assume it is $99. As a matter of fact, let's say a marketing agency, let's say there were two clubs in town, your club and the one down the road. And they say, listen, I'm going to run a campaign and I'm going to get you either go with you or go with Joe down the road. We'll probably generate only an extra 10, maybe 50 members a month. And you've got to pay me $99 per new membership. But you'll get 99 up front, so every new membership is going to pay for itself. Are you going to? Do you want me to do it with you, or do you want me to do it with your competitor down the road? I mean, when you take it away from them, it becomes more meaningful. And we know that there are marketing agencies, like CFM and stuff like that. They only deal with one person in town, but they take 50%. Or whatever. Anyway, and they do a great job at it. So let's get down to some of the nitty gritty. Got a bit more to share with you. Hopefully this is making sense. And this is basic arithmetic, isn't it? Basic arithmetic. Because the business that can pay more to acquire new customers will simply grow fastest. Remember that profit and loss statement? We really want to grow faster. So the question is, if a marketing agency said, we may be able to supply qualified leads that boost membership sales by 10 to 50 extra members a month, that's on top of the freebies, how much could your business pay per new member? Now, if I'm putting it to you, whatever your enrollment fee is, at least you want to be able to pay that. So
I'll just interrupt for a moment, Jamie.
Yeah.
What would you do if someone said, oh, we don't have an enrollment fee, we just have a gross value? So for instance, businesses that maybe not fitness centers, they say, oh, we'll get $1,000 for the sale. What percentage of that would you say that would be? So based on that $100 to $1,500, we're looking at around about that 7.5% mark.
Yeah. And typically, businesses used to, in their budget, have like 5 to 10% on marketing. But let's say if it's $1,000 sale, you want to say, well, how much of that is profit? And what's the likelihood of that person becoming a repeat customer? What is the lifetime value of the customer? And how much is the business? Let's say of that $1,000, let's say it's 50% margin, you've got $500 profit. How much of the $500 are you willing to invest to acquire that customer? Might be $100. That's a no-brainer, isn't it? Knowing that at least you're $400 on top. If they refer a customer or buy an additional product or continue buying that product, you're way ahead. And there are many business models that they've got so much cash in the bank, or they raise the capital to say, we're going to grow our customers fast and be cash flow negative, which means on each customer, we won't even break even until month 3 or 4. So there's many business models that have had, that become billion-dollar companies who, with every new customer transaction, have been cash flow negative because they've invested to acquire the customer. But with Facebook ads, the typical business does not need to do that. They can be at least cash flow neutral.
Great, that's great.
Which means there's no reason not to do it,
Absolutely.
except for lack of skills, So let's show you a little bit about the nitty gritty how to do it. I'm going to go back to share screen, and those people watching, if they've got any questions, Steve, please ask them, put it in chat or interrupt, ask. So a quick overview of Facebook.
Jamie, I've got a question for you.
Oh, Amanda, go.
So I understand the maths of the model that you've just used in terms of acquiring a new member.
Mm-hmm.
I've always worked on a slightly different premise, and I'm just wondering what your preference would be. I've always worked on the fact that I want a minimum of 3 times return on my investment.
Okay, so which means if your investment is $100, do you want, just to get clarity, $300 in gross revenue or $300 in profit?
No, I want $300 in gross revenue.
Like gross revenue, fine. Well, I would suggest that that's pretty easy to achieve, and I'm going to show you an example of somebody who does that week in and week out. Yeah.
Good.
But
is there a preference though, or?
No. Look, as long as you're calculating, we've always measured, anybody who's done Steve's training or with Darren's training, with phone skills, with, let's say with inbound conversation, they will ask about source. If you don't mind me asking, how did you find out about us? Or what triggered you to call us today?
Yeah, we do that. Like
Sure.
we've just recently run a one-page ad in the local paper in Hobart, and that works quite well for us. It costs $3,800 for a whole page, and it's done over 2 weekends. And we almost got $12,000 return on our investment.
Well, that's fantastic. Why would you stop doing it?
Well, we don't, but it's a big outlay compared to what you can do on social media. So I'm waiting for you to drop some golden nuggets. So
that's okay. Right. So if it's so, and it's a really interesting logic question, which is, if something like that is working, but let's say social media can yield customers at a lower cost, do you stop the one that's slightly more expensive, slightly lower return on investment, or actually do them both?
Oh, no, I'll do them both.
Absolutely. I think that's a very
because it's a faster way to grow your business.
Absolutely. It's a faster way to grow the business and, to get to cash flow positive or just enjoy a higher profit. And if you enjoy a higher profit, you can reinvest in the business, staff training or, new equipment or, be less vulnerable to the ups and downs of the economy, to viruses and all that sort of stuff. So,
you'll see one of my challenges is that 35% of my members are over 65. So they're not even all on social media, but they do read the local newspaper.
Well, what's the famous question to the bank robber? He said, they asked him, why do you rob banks? And he said, well,
where the money is.
That's where the money is. So you're a perfect marketer. You know who your target market is. You're saying, where are their eyeballs? And so you're going to where their eyeballs are. Now, there are Facebook and Instagram cover billions of eyeballs, a lot of eyeballs. And it's just a question of just the maths, even though I might be, in most of our businesses, we target women, 40 to 65. Can we get enough via Facebook? Well, we get a lot of them via Facebook, but there are a lot of them that are not Facebook users. So there may be other medium. As a matter of fact, it wouldn't surprise me if letterbox flyers and lead boxes can work today like they maybe differently, but like they have in the past. So, it's a case of just testing and measuring, and you have to be committed to whatever it is, and which means you and your people monitor where did our leads come from, and then you monitor what was your cost per lead and cost per sale per source.
Yeah, no, we do all that. KPIs are a big thing thanks to being on the round table for many years.
Yeah.
That's not lost.
So I'll try and answer some questions. Let's see. Let me come back to this just so I can quickly run through this. So there's some rules here. You want to place a Facebook ad that gets attention. So Facebook and Instagram are social networks. Nobody opens up their mobile phone, their Facebook app, to look for your ad. It's just not that medium. And it has to have a compelling offer that you can put in front of your target market. And with Facebook, you can really target it, very nicely for that product. So it has to be a thumb stopper. There is no point in doing any ad unless it's what we call a thumb stop. It stops them in the feed. So they're not looking for the ad, but they say, oh, gee, that's interesting. And it has to have a super clear call to action, which is click to learn more. And that has to be a frictionless process. We typically take them outside Facebook to a landing sales page that encourages them to register their details. And the way that is built has to be very carefully done. So we typically pick up their first name, email, and mobile. And then we automate that the leads go immediately to the salesperson's mobile phone. So they get a notification, ding, 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 call this person because, Steve, let me just come back to you. Would I be correct in saying that the speed, not in days, not in hours, not in minutes, the speed at which the salesperson, even in real estate, gets in contact with that prospect affects their conversion rate.
Absolutely. The faster we get it, it's as you progress throughout that 24-hour period, the probability of closure, actually going to what's next, reduces by around about 25%. So the data was around about a few years ago about 2 to 3 minutes. Now it's within a minute. And they're saying you've got to get in contact with somebody or some type of response.
Absolutely. So if it's like unsociable hours, 11 o'clock at night or whatever like that, we might automate a text or something like that saying, we'll call you first thing in the morning or something like that. So that's fine. But speed, particularly today, speed really counts. Let me quickly get back to that, rip through this stuff. That needs to be automated, and make sure the salesperson responds within minutes by phone or text using a good phone script. So, Steve, I'm just going to come back to you. This is where the soft skills start. Do they have a phone script that converts? Do they know what questions to ask and how to do it? Are they role playing it?
The problem in the fitness industry, but also industry as such, they wing it. They say, I've been doing it a long time, and they don't have a prompt. We actually gone away from just having verbatim, like we used to do many years ago. But now we actually have a prompt which has the right words, but people have the autonomy to go off the page. But unless it's written down and they've done the practice beforehand, they're not going to read it. They've got to know it. And it's a prompt to actually remind them. And by the way, the telephone skills and the Zoom skills have significantly changed in the last 6 to 8 months. It's quite significant. And they've got to upgrade those skills. Get a good lead, have a conversation quickly. And the tool to use, have a conversation, is your prompt.
Absolutely good. And because they may have learned, the inbound prompt, but this is an outbound call, isn't it? So it's just slight differences. So this can't be left to chance, because otherwise they're going to blow all their leads in that initial contact, which means they'll say, oh, we tried Facebook ads, they don't work. Well, they screwed up the very first contact, and the percentage of people that get contacted has to be measured, and the percentage of people who book an appointment need to be measured, and the percentage of people who show for that appointment need to be measured. All these are based upon the phone strategy and phone skills. So they've got to take that seriously.
And one of the things, Jamie, that it's a little bit outside the box, but it's not just the phone skill of the words on the prompt, is to delivery. This is the big problem. There's this almost a begging and almost a conversation to a stranger where everyone's trying to be so implicitly nice. It's not matter of fact, and they've got to get rapport, but sometimes the tone just kills the presentation dead. So that's why PDR, or practice, drill, rehearse, and recording things before they get onto the phone, is critical these days.
Yeah, absolutely. And it needs to be role played, and anyway, we won't go on, but we're both believers in this. So absolutely. Let me quickly run through. Hopefully, this is helping some people. And then you have to measure all the above. You have to, how many people were spoken to, how many people booked an appointment, and the quality. A lot of people will book an appointment just to damn well get you off the phone, if you're not compelling. And it's not so much what you say, and this is your area, Steve, not so much what you say, but what you ask over the phone. Do you have that script with the right questions? And so it becomes a logical conclusion for them to go to the next step.
It's the what's next mentality. But if we have the wrong person on the phone and we've marketed and got the wrong type of lead, what happens is we spend a bit of time trying to go through to the end. Sometimes in your prompt, the marketing's got to qualify the person so it goes to the right avatar. Secondly, it's got to have a compelling argument that matches the prompt. So early in the piece, we've got to qualify early. Otherwise, you're going to spend a lot of time speaking to the wrong people.
Okay, so let me jump in. I've got so much. I've got way too much to share, but hopefully it's of value. So there's another concept which is to do with Facebook, which is the remarketing mop-up. And I want to share this. So you may or may not be aware, that with Facebook, you can create a custom audience in Facebook Ad Manager to show you ads to people who clicked the ad but did not register. You can actually put ads, Facebook, Instagram, or Google ads, in front of them, let's say with a $5 a day campaign. And in addition to doing that, these are the people who clicked but did not register, which is about 80%. Most landing pages at best get about 20% opt-in rate. So there's 80% who clicked the ad but did not register, so you can remarket to them cheaply. But to the people who did register, this is there are people who registered but you never got in contact. They didn't pick up the phone when you rang. There's people who you contacted but did not book. There's people who booked but did not show, and of course there's people who showed but did not join. So they can be remarketed by text, email, phone calls, whatever like that. And I learned from Richard. It was fantastic. Go back and watch Richard's session. Create a private Facebook group for prospects, which in our business we've called the warming trade, to keep them warming. So there's to increase the return on investment. There's lots of things that you can do to what's called lost leads. Those people floating out there, the people who didn't respond, and the different steps. And you really want to automate that as much as possible.
So what we're saying here that if we're going to do a Facebook campaign with to create more paid traffic, it's better to go to somebody that's jumped on your landing page or someone that's actually gone to your website, because you've got the pick school in there that we could then remarket to them, and then we then send a call to action piece to get them to opt in again. So rekindle that lead or that interest so we can have a conversation.
Absolutely, because look, they might be on the phone and suddenly they just click your ad and the dog barked or the baby cried or the boss came around or a police car drives by, so there's a whole heap of reasons why they may not have responded at that point in time. Plus they might be skeptics. Who knows? This is cold traffic. This is to a cold audience. They don't know, like, or trust you, and so they're not ready yet. And so you just don't want to leave them, and that's why the warming trade concept, to sort of warm them up. So these guys are for real. They're nice people. It's the way to go. In targeting, I've got some more information to share with everybody. Let me just dive in. These are freebies, giveaways. Now, many, many years ago, a Boston professor called James Prochaska wrote with colleagues a book called Changing for Good. And he talked about the 6 stages of change. And I often use this as a framework to how to put the right message in front of the right people at the right time. Let's have a quick look at it. And their 6 stages of change were called pre-contemplation. These are people, let's say, who are unfit, overweight, but they're not even thinking about change. Now, I'd say you sort of want to ignore them. They're too expensive to go to. Then you've got people who are contemplating. Tony Robbins said these people who are using the word should, he says they should all over themselves. They're aware that they're overweight or unfit, but they're just thinking about it. They're not taking action yet. Then we move to research. They're actually looking for a solution. They've got, Facebook knows they're interested. This is where SEO or search engine optimization on your website and your blogs and stuff like that, targeting them can help. Then there's people taking action. They're doing, joining, buying, starting running, going on a diet, join a fitness club. Then you've got people in maintenance who are trying to stick to the program, but a normal part of maintenance is relapse. And they are prone to switching from one provider to another. And then finally, we've got completion, like Amanda, who said she done her water walking this morning, which means it's not an option for her. It's like brushing your teeth, putting on your seatbelt. It's no longer something that we even think about. It's just part of what we do every day. Now, Facebook ads are great to this huge audience who are aware and just thinking about not taking action. But that's why it needs to be a thumb stopper. Hey, here's something interesting. Steve, you might remember lead boxes. With lead boxes, you weren't selling membership. Let's say somebody's standing in the bank. They're not in the bank to look for a fitness club membership. but sitting there on the bank counter is this incredible offer. So, oh, gee, I have been thinking about losing weight or joining a gym. I, wasn't thinking about doing it today, but that's a pretty compelling offer. And a compelling offer will always outsell a logical argument. So, so we should learn from lead boxes. We put them in cafes and everything like that. People didn't go to cafe looking for a gym membership, and sometimes if we didn't have a compelling offer on that lead box, we didn't get any leads.
It's actually going into the greed, the fear of missing out, or an opportunity. So it's got to be scarcity, also something that has perceived value. So at the end of the day, the offer has to be strong, but it doesn't have to be a cheap offer. I mean, you explained it very well a little while ago. When you do an ad or some description, you put an offer out there, and it might be a low entry, but it's not low cost. And in comparison, if they bought something that was the big picture, it would be expensive. But because they're only getting a short period of time, it's low cost. So at the end of the day, it allows you to upgrade with perceived value.
Absolutely. And we use a phrase called using an offer that converts, which means it has to convert on the phone so they click through to the landing page. It has to convert so that they're willing to book an appointment. And we never run a marketing campaign with saying, okay, what is our big picture presentation? What are our pricing options, so that we can say we might have had a campaign with an offer, but there is something else that we want to offer them, which is far greater value, maybe a much higher price. And what is our conversion strategy for that? And we want to measure every step along the way. So whenever we create a marketing campaign, I like to say, okay, guys, what's our sales process? How are we going to sell it? So it has to be an offer that converts. And so you have to figure that out. So marketers and salespeople, they need to work in unison on this stuff.
Jamie, have you got an example of an offer you've used that had a compelling offer that's been easier to convert?
We typically
that you're willing to share?
Oh, sure. So, and you, before I share this, please be careful with Facebook ad policies, because they can shut down your account. So you have to be just very, very careful. So I'm going to share an offer with you, which is 9 kilos, 6 weeks free, which suggests you can lose 9 kilos in 6 weeks.
That's what I was also going to ask you. Like, I've tried to run weight loss ads on Facebook, and it's very difficult to get a lot of them approved because they're so sensitive and politically correct with the language.
Oh, sure. And
is that something you've run into? Or?
Oh, yeah. We're very, very careful. You can't call out personal attributes.
No.
Be very careful of possessive words, you, your, our, things like that. So we are super, super cautious of that. And the Facebook ad algorithm that judges the ads, sometimes it seems to go berserk and just shuts people down, and we've got to apply to get Facebook ad accounts reinstalled. So and I do have a resource at the end of my slide where you can monitor that. But you do have to be very, very cautious. But the number one reason new members join a fitness club or get a personal training is to lose weight. And we know that science does not support that exercise is effective modality to lose weight. It's all about the diet. And so my view, which is slightly controversial, is where exercise does not lead to weight loss, the reverse is true. Weight loss leads to exercise. If you help somebody lose weight, they're more inclined to exercise and becoming an exerciser for life, which is our desired outcome. So marketing weight loss is a great lead generator for the fitness industry, because it's the number one outcome that they want to achieve. I'm going to actually address this a bit more. Let me just jump in. Amanda, keep those questions coming. That's fantastic. Let's see, where are we up to? I just want to make sure, because I'm actually preempting some of these questions, which is great. So we went through there. So if we want to put our Facebook ads on steroids just in case you don't know about it, you can upload your email database of members, ex-members and prospects to Facebook. Facebook will do a best match, so you can put targeted ads in front of them, and you can remarket to them, $2 a day, $5 a day with Facebook ads. And then to go on steroids, you can ask Facebook, look, can you give me more of the same sort of people with the same sort of behaviors? So you can ask Facebook to create a lookalike audience. And as Steve mentioned earlier, you definitely want to make sure that you've got your Google Analytics code and Facebook Pixel code on your website. So there's a tip here. A lot of business owners may have a team member who knows about Facebook and Instagram and does the free organic post, but running paid traffic campaigns is a completely different skill set. Plus, they need a budget. So just be very careful. Steve, just stepping out of this, if I'm talking to a club owner or management team, I like to say to them, okay, could everybody write down the Christian name of the person responsible for marketing? And typically they look around and there's a hesitation there. And then if they do come up with that person's name, I say, could you write down what your monthly marketing budget is, how much you're authorized to spend? Now, they might have a team member who does their organic posts and they say, oh, no, she does our Facebook marketing and she doesn't have zero budget, which means they're not doing any paid traffic. So, it needs somebody responsible that has the right skill or the right support, but that is a big trap that I see businesses get into by default. Now, there's a couple of things here, particularly with COVID. Some clubs are facilities-based. They're 24/7 clubs. That's all they do. It's access to the facility. There are some clubs, be it CrossFit and some studios, they're very program-based. And so the clubs that are facility-based, they are pretty well restricted to their local area. And particularly with shutdown, they may be shut down. Whereas clubs that are program-based, they're delivering programs, they can actually market anywhere. Now, the facility-based clubs, they can still sell membership, but they might need to outsource programming if they want to go online. But the program-based clubs, and we know many people have done this. They've brought their classes online. They've brought their weight loss program online. Their PT online, so that they can sell an online membership. So it depends where you are. And I see lots of clubs that are just facilities-based, and they feel like, oh, I'm stuck, and there's nothing I can do. Well, there are things they can do. Now, here's a club owner in Auckland. And I asked him could you give me a bit of a quote? He said, each week I typically invest around $320 in Facebook ad, which leads to about 8 new membership sales, most in another city, which means they're not even coming to his centre. So with each sale having a minimum gross value of $1,650, with $99 up front, and a minimum agreement of 52 weeks at $29.95 per week, we typically sell about 8 per week. So the total gross per week is $13,200. That's a very good ROI. So, that shows that it can be done. And he is selling a weight loss membership to people who aren't, he's in Wellington, he's selling it into the Auckland market. It doesn't matter if he's open or not open. That's a pretty good return on investment.
So with that type of offer, Jamie, what was the typical, so if we're going to get paid traffic, he probably got his pixel sorted out, but then he actually invested about $300 odd. What was the type of offer to create that paid traffic for that $300?
Yeah, sure. It's typically either 6 weeks free, but with a creative that reflects the target market, that has an inherent promise of weight loss, even though the ad or the words may not have said you can lose 6 kilos or whatever like that. And Steve, just so everybody knows, you can see any business's current Facebook ads to get an answer to your question and Amanda's question. if you go to their business page, their Facebook business page, and then scroll down to a section called Page Transparency, if they are running ads right now, as long as you click through to the right country, you can see their ads. And so this is an incredible resource, so you can go to supply, to businesses, be it in Australia or New Zealand or anywhere in the world, who are targeting the same audience, and say, oh, I wonder if they're running Facebook ads right now. And if they are, go and check them out. And if they keep on repeating them, you can sort of assume that they're making money. So just to repeat, go to the business page, go to Page Transparency, and click Ad Library, and then click the country if it's in a different country, and you can see their current ads.
Terrific. Well, we've got around about 2 or 3 minutes to go. So before we wrap it up, because I've got another interview at about 11. So has anyone got any questions for Jamie? I've got 16 points that I've written down here. He's absolutely got the gold. Have you got a question that you'd like to ask Jamie before we wrap it up for this morning? No?
Okay, well, I'm just going to if that's the case, that's fine.
No, I've got a question, Jamie.
Okay.
When you started using Facebook ads, was it really slow? And as you've got better at it, has your return on investment become greater, or did it just go off from the get-go?
Oh, no, we're always improving our skill set. So, and so, actually, to answer your question, I am going to jump out. I'm going to share a screen, which is the advertiser's mindset. And this is super important. Firstly, you want to schedule time to learn about paid traffic. You want to schedule time to review your ad manager account, see what ads are working, not working. You want to compare the campaign, and ad performance. You always want to be learning. You're buying data so that you're going to have successes and failures, and you don't treat it like failure. You're saying, I'm just buying data to figure out what in my market, to my target audience, what works and what doesn't work. Test. You want to be looking at the campaign objectives, the audiences you're putting in front of. We talked about remarketing audience, the creative. We're always running at least 3 ads in one ad set at a time. Testing. And one of our golden rules is never fall in love with your own ad. Just be driven by the numbers. We've just done a campaign with, I think it was 5 or 6 ad creatives, and we had a picture of a lady who was slightly larger in the black swimsuit. It really wasn't very
flattering.
Yeah, that's right. But it performed the best, and you want to test landing page conversion. So
you've done things like where you've run the same ad and you've used, say, 3 different images. Like that's the kind of thing we've been doing.
Definitely. Either library images or authentic images, and testing sometimes images versus video, in ads. So, but you have to be just constantly test. It really gets down to cost per lead and cost per sale, and also get prepared to be bored. To be bored. Gavin, who I just quoted there, he keeps on turning back on ads that he's been running for 6 or 9 months. You'd think, oh, people are sick of seeing my ads, but they just keep on working. So, so he's not falling in love with the ads. He's just going by the numbers. And and so we're constantly refreshing them, and with all our partners and whatever like that, we're creating ads for them. So we're doing the hard work for them, delivering the ads and delivering the landing pages and all that sort of stuff, so that they don't have to be an ad creative. And we're testing also long copy, which is a lot of words in an ad, versus short copy, not many words in an ad. So, these are all things to test.
I think that when it comes down to this, I think the major aspect here is to understand what you're going to spend on your marketing, and also to be able to pinpoint some of the nuances that we need to actually put out there before we start just hoping and wishing. I love your analogy of whether it's a wish, well, I hope a few people refer, but then you actually work with some paid traffic. But it sounds to me that one of the big rocks I got from today, Jamie, was if we don't have an action plan and a budget, and there's nobody in charge of that budget, and not talking about the things that are important, which are how many qualified conversations we're having each day, your Facebook or your hope to be successful in let's say social media marketing will fail.
It will. And you just have to take this part of the business seriously, generating leads. So it's outside the four walls. You could run a successful Facebook ad campaign from your desk at home, so you don't have to be in the club to do it. Now, Steve, it would be remiss of me to not share two free resources from Facebook. If you can see that, let me just bring it up, blow it up. Firstly, you can go to Facebook Business, which is facebook.com/business/learn. Got lots of free courses there and things like that. And Facebook ad policies, you really want to go to this page every month because they're changing them all the time. And they've got, Amanda, to answer your question, before and after ads, what's accepted, what's not accepted, And so, and Steve, maybe you could share these links later.
I'll actually put them in the video and so forth.
Yeah, and of course, as a shameless plug, happy to chat to anybody that just flick me an email, jamie@dietflex.com.au, and talk about weight loss marketing to get more fitness memberships. So
look, I would strongly recommend people jump on to take that opportunity. I'll put all your details in there, Jamie. So if you're happy to have a chat with people a little bit more in depth on something that they particularly want to talk about, that'll be terrific. Well, mate, as I said, I always have tons of pages of things I write down when I get you on, and I really appreciate your time, mate. I can see why you spend so much time, because it's incredibly complex. But what you've done today is you've given us the things to start with. So I really appreciate your time, mate. It was absolutely fantastic.
Steve, you have done so much for me. It's absolutely a pleasure.
Terrific, guys. All right, gang, we're going to wrap it up. I want to see what you're going to do with the information Jamie's given you. Facebook, your pick schools, making sure that you have the right avatar, but also understanding that you've got to have a budget and know what you're doing. So reach out to Jamie. I'll put the details in there. He very generously said he'll give you a little bit of a chin wag. He's incredibly generous with his time, but he is incredibly busy. So make sure you have your questions ready to ask him so he can belt them out to you. So guys, thanks for joining us today. We look forward to seeing you next week, 10 o'clock for See More People. Bye for now.